Hello and welcome into the 2025 NCAA Selection Show on NCAA.com. I'm your host, Angela Morian. What a great day for some celebrations across the nation as 64 schools will hear their names called for this year's NCAA Division III Women's Basketball Tournament. The goal for each team to play in Salem, Virginia, March 20th through the 22nd for a chance to cut down the nets at the Kreger Center. For this year's event, there are 43 automatic qualifiers and 21 at-large bids. Those teams that didn't win their conference tournaments eagerly awaiting those at-large bid announcements. We'll begin play this coming weekend with games on March 7th and 8th, with 16 schools hosting pods of 4 teams each. Division III basketball fans are so appreciative of the coverage all season long provided by D3Hoops.com. This day I know circled big on all of their calendars. So joining us in the fun this afternoon is the executive editor of D3Hoops.com, Pat Coleman. You've been with D3 Hoops since 1997. So Pat, I'm pretty sure you know what you're talking about. What are your first thoughts looking at the field this year?
I think it's great. It's the year, and we talked about this previously, where, now the formula determines who all of the teams are. So there's no drama into who the at-large teams are. The drama is all in what's about to be revealed, who is playing where. It's still made for some great excitement down the last days of the season as conference upsets reshaped how teams fell in the math, in the numbers, and let's get to it.
Yeah, we love some drama on a Monday afternoon. Always love the drama. Looking forward to your expertise and analysis as we go through the bracket. But without further ado, let's just get on into this. Get your brackets out now. We're starting in the upper left-hand corner. The first team on the bracket is one of just 2 teams still perfect, and that's Bowdoin. The Polar Bears won a thriller in the NESCAC championship against Colby Sunday to finish the season 27-0. Just the second time in program history, Bowdoin enters the NCAA tournament undefeated. This marks the Polar Bears' second straight conference championship. They're the #1 team on the Power Index. The Polar Bears will play Brooklyn, who won its first straight CUNYAC championship. The Bulldogs have overcome multiple injuries this year. Junior guard Dior Dorsey says this team has been the definition of perseverance. Next team up, Cortland. The Red Dragons completed their 4th 20-win season in the last 5 years and won their second conference championship in 3 years. This will be Cortland's 14th NCAA tournament appearance. Get excited, Endicott! The Gulls upset the top seed in the Western New England Conference for that conference title. Head coach Jamie Insell has led the first coaching staff to win a conference championship in their debut year with the program. Congratulations to the Gulls. Our first at-large bid of the day goes to Amherst. The Mammoths couldn't get past Bowdoin in the conference championship, but it doesn't matter. Amherst, you are going dancing. The Mammoths will play the Liberty League champs in Vassar. The Brewers won their second straight conference title thanks to Julia Harvey's 22 points. Harvey named the most outstanding player of the conference tournament. The winner of the New MAC has also won the right to host. Smith, now one of 2 teams in history to win 5 straight New MAC titles. The Pioneers looking for some retribution after losing in the national championship last season. Smith's first opponent will be SUNY Cobblesville. No anxiety watching the show today for the Fighting Tigers. They won their first ever North Atlantic Conference Championship this weekend to earn an automatic bid for this year's tournament. Wow, we're already 8 down. So let's bring back in Pat, who we'll talk to after every set of 8 teams announced. Pat, what stands out to you in these games played at Bowdoin and Smith?
Well, it's hard for me not to look ahead even a little further when you see these 2 hosts, these 2 teams played each other in the deep in the NCAA tournament last year for the right to go to the national semifinals. Smith came away with that win. I know Bowdoin looking for a chance at a rematch. I think that the Cortland Endicott game in that Bowdoin pod should be really interesting. This is a good neutral game on a neutral floor. Endicott, the upset winner in its conference tournament. I never count out Amherst because head coach GP Kramacki is just brilliant. His teams have not been quite as dominant as they were when they made that run to the national championship and back-to-back unbeaten years a decade ago, but still in there. And I look forward to a bunch of great games out of this group.
Back to the bracket as we go to team number 9, hearing their name called this afternoon, East Texas Baptist. The Tigers will play host for the first and second round games. It's the first American Southwest Conference Championship under head coach Blake Arbogast. An undefeated home record helped the Tigers get here. Texas Lutheran will try to break that streak in the first round. The Bulldogs won the SCAC for the 3rd straight time, the longest conference title streak since joining the NCAA. This is the Bulldogs' first time dancing since 2019. The other half of the bracket playing in Marshall, Texas, McMurray. Go ahead and celebrate, Warhawks. You earned an at-large bid for this year's tournament. 4 different players averaged double figures for the Warhawks, led by Emily Holland, who's close to scoring 20 points a game. McMurray will play Southern California Intercollegiate Athletic Conference champ, Cal Lutheran. This is the Regals' first conference title in 12 years. Cal Lutheran hoping the royal treatment will be on their side in their 9th NCAA tournament. Next up, Wartburg, the back-to-back American Rivers Conference champs. The Knights have owned the ARC lately, making the 2nd straight year they've taken the regular season and conference tournament titles. Wartburg will play Wisconsin Stevens Point. The Pointers are 2-time national champions, earning their spot with an at-large selection this season. Stevens Point got it last in 2002, the national title that is. They're going to rely on their defense in the tournament, Pointers allowing only 56 points a game to opponents. Gustavus Adolphos will host all of the fun on this bottom part of the bracket. The Gusties only lost 1 game this season before winning their 4th straight MEAC title. Rachel Kawecki recorded her first double-double of the season in that championship game against Bethel. The last team in this region is Wisconsin Lutheran. The Warriors heading to the NCAA tournament for the 13th time after going a perfect 6 for 6 from the free throw line in the final 26 seconds of the conference championship game. That's 16 teams down, so let's bring in Pat. Pat, how impressive were those Gusties this season?
Yeah, the Gusties pretty fantastic. Gustavus Adolphus, you mentioned 26-1. They haven't been challenged all that often. They went out and scheduled 4 WIAC teams, 4 teams from the Wisconsin Conference early in the season to kind of toughen themselves up and have looked really good over the course of doing so. Wartburg, those 2 losses, both of them were in Texas on some particularly not good back-to-back nights back in December. One of those was a loss to East Texas Baptist. Makes for an interesting possibility for those of you who might be looking further down the field. And if there were a Wartburg Gustavus Adolphus game in the second round, that's a fantastic game to look at. McMurray, great year in their first year in the SCAC. There are 3 SCAC teams in this field. We know this because of NPI. You can't put them all in the same bracket by the way the bracket rules are, but you do have 2 of them here in Texas.
All right, we're 1/4 of the way through, Pat. The next team to start celebrating, Illinois Wesleyan. The Titans also lost only 1 game this season en route to the Illinois and Wisconsin Tournament Championship. Lauren Huber and Mallory Powers combined for 50 points against Carroll in that title game. It's the Titans' 2nd straight NCAA tournament. They'll try to win their first national championship since 2012. The Titans will host the Southern Athletic Association's champ, in center. The Comeback Colonels, as they're affectionately called, won their first ever SAA title after rallying to beat Millisaps by 4 in that title game. Celebration time for Trine. The Thunder lost to Calvin in the conference championship, but that hasn't stopped this special season. Trine has only 3 losses to its name and makes its 8th straight tournament appearance. Transylvania is back again for another national championship run. The Pioneers won the whole thing 2 years ago. Head coach Hannah Varel said this team has overcome adversity in an amazing way. She said she's very lucky to be a part of it. Bethel might have lost their conference championship, but that's not stopping the Royals from dancing. Bethel receives an at-large selection after an impressive season. The Royals are a deep threat, making 50% past the arc against Gustavus Adolphus in the MEAC title game. They battle DePaul. The Tigers topped Wittenberg by 2 in the North Coast Athletic Conference Tournament title game. This is the 24th time DePaul's gone dancing. Playing host will be Wisconsin Oshkosh. The Warhawks won the WIAC championship to punch their ticket to the tournament. Check out the highlights. Sophomore Sammy Byer scored a career-high 27 in that title game to keep the Warhawks flying. Wisconsin Oshkosh won the Natty back in 1996. The first team standing in their way for a second national championship, Michigan Intercollegiate Athletic Association winners, Calvin. It's the Knights' first tournament berth since 2017. All that success led by a Calvin grad himself in head coach Mark Christner. If you're counting with me, that's 24 teams down. You know what that means. Pat, what stands out about these 8 on your screen?
Well, Illinois Wesleyan has had a fantastic season, obviously. We mentioned this on the men's selection show a little while ago, but they are hosting this weekend. That's why their men are not. The women have priority when both teams at a school have the opportunity to host. And this year, the women have the first weekend priority. I know the D3 fans out there know what that means. On the opposite side, you've got UW Oshkosh. Oshkosh is the Titans. Oshkosh, which survived that conference championship game, lost in the WIAC. There are 5 WIAC teams in this field, so just keep an eye out for where all of those WIAC teams fall out. It's really hard to bracket all of those teams in different places, and do not overlook Bethel. Bethel, obviously, maybe the second best team in this pod. Pretty good. Lost to Gustavus Adolphus in the MIAC title game, but they're a formidable squad. And you mentioned Transylvania. They're not all that far removed from that championship run, and Trine made a run to the national semifinals a couple years ago as well. That's a really interesting pod up top.
Apologies to the Titans for my misrepresentation there on Wisconsin Oshkosh. Thanks, Pat, for that correction. All right, we got the final 8 teams on the left side of your bracket, starting with Ohio Wesleyan. The Battling Bishops earning an at-large bid after an impressive season. Casey Cipher became the NCAC's all-time leading scorer this weekend with over 2,100 points. That's a record that's been held for 20 years. They'll host Immaculata, who's on a 15-game win streak. The Mighty Macs lived up to their name, beating Newman in the Atlantic East Conference Championship. This just their second time in the NCAA tournament. Messiah's up next. The 2-loss Falcons finished the season undefeated in the MAC Commonwealth action. They've been runners-up for the national title game twice in program history. The President's senior class already holds the most wins of any group in program history at 92. They'll try to tack on even more this March. Washington and Jefferson will face the Falcons first. The top-seeded Presidents downed third-seeded Chatham University in the conference championship game Saturday. From Presidents to Generals, Washington and Lee earning an at-large bid this year. Catherine Kagi earned the conference tournament's MVP award after posting up 25 points and 10 rebounds in that title game. They'll play Merchant Marine, who's had only 2 losses this season. One of those, the heartbreaker to Mount St. Mary in the conference title game. Congratulations to Merchant Marine for making the bracket. The last host on this side of the bracket, 1 loss, Baldwin Wallace. The Yellow Jackets also earn the honor of hosting the first and second rounds. As I said, they won the Ohio Athletic Conference tournament for the 9th time in program history. Emily Irwin continues her 1,000-point career, just the 17th Yellow Jacket in program history to hit that milestone. Team number 32 is La Roche. This is their 4th AMCC title in 5 years. They finished the regular season 22-5. It's time for Pat's expert analysis once again. Pat, who stands out the most to you in this section, and is it a team that starts with Washington?
Yeah, we can call them W&J and WNL if you like. That's another thing that people do. We were 1 line away from getting a really classic first-round matchup and a tongue twister. I think the teams to look at are, of course, first off, the host institutions. They are there for a reason. They're really high NPI. Ohio Wesleyan's had a fantastic season. Baldwin Wallace is always really tough, and the OAC, where they play in, is a pretty tough conference. Merchant Marine, though, I want to shout them out. They won 23 consecutive games before they did lose that overtime game against Mount St. Mary in the Skyline title game. Not often, frankly, that the Skyline has had a team that could get an at-large bid, but I think in NPI, that certainly allowed them to get in. And W&J and Messiah, the Falcons have been, at this level a lot. They've made runs to the national semifinals back several years ago that they haven't really gone away. And then one more thing about those Mighty Macs of Immaculata. So you mentioned only the 2nd time in the NCAA tournament, but this is the program that was like the power in the AIAW, the precursor to where women's sports played before the NCAA brought them into the fold a little over 40 years ago. So the Mighty Macs have a long history. It's just from the 1970s and early 80s.
All right, we're halfway through, Pat. Can you believe it? Let's go over to the right side of the bracket, where we start with the defending champs, NYU. The Violets finishing the season 25-0 for the 2nd straight time. They currently hold the longest win streak in the entire nation, 56 wins and counting. They will try for their 3rd national title. The first team in the way, Gallaudet. Raj Getler hit an overtime buzzer beater to beat St. Mary's College of Maryland in the United East Conference Championship. It's a first for their women's basketball team and a first NCAA appearance since 2011. UMass Dartmouth, you're going dancing. You're taking an impressive 23-4 record into March. The Corsairs are Little East champs for the first time in program history. Jane McCauley, a career-high 32 points. 10 of those were past the arc against Southern Maine in the championship game. They play Trinity from Connecticut. The Bantams were bounced out of the conference tournament in the semifinals, but they're high enough on the NPI for an at-large bid. Congrats, Bantams. You're going dancing. Another 1-loss team coming up next, Christopher Newport. They boast a top 5 scoring offense in the nation. Get this, without a single player averaging in double figures. Head coach Bill Brodericks recorded his 300th career win during this season en route to a coast-to-coast athletic conference championship. Happy Monday, Montclair State. This season marks the greatest turnaround in program history. After only 9 wins last year, the Red Hawks come into the tournament with 23 on their resume this season. Head coach Karen Harvey said it's a tremendous group effort to have the best turnaround in program history. Catholic earns hosting rights for this region. The Cardinals come into the tournament with the Landmark Conference's best 3-point shooter. Carrie Flaherty set the conference's single-season record with 81 threes to her name so far this season. Catholic plays SUNY Geneseo. They outlasted Brockport in a nail-biter, 66-63, the score in the title game to win their first Empire VIII title. They are one of our automatic qualifiers for this year. That bracket is all filled up, which means Pat is back on with us. Pat, what are your thoughts on these 8 teams?
Well, kudos to Gallaudet for making the field, and apologies for not having an ASL sign language interpreter on this broadcast. That's a fantastic way in which they won that game. You probably see that highlight on social media over the last day and a half or so. Just a big outpouring of emotion for the Bison. NYU, I'm not sure what else we can say about them. They've won more than 50 games in a row. I know they're not the top seed in this bracket, but they are a favorite to go and win the whole thing. Christopher Newport, boy, you talk about the depth. Bill Broderick always goes really deep into his bench, and is a really balanced team this year, as you mentioned. And Catholic, Geneseo, Montclair, Christopher Newport. That's a nice collection of teams that have all done some things in the NCAA tournament, up and down kind of the Eastern Seaboard. So a good combination there in Washington, D.C.
We love that. All right, let's go to our next host. It will be Randolph-Macon. The Yellow Jackets won their first conference title since 2019-2020 season. This year's 27 wins, the most since the 05-06 season. Randolph-Macon plays Piedmont first after another first ever conference championship. It's the Collegiate Conference of the South tournament title for Piedmont. Nene Eaves led the way with a career-high 20 in that championship game. Get excited, Elizabethtown. The Blue Jays won their first ever Division III Women's National Championship way back in 1982. It was the first ever for the NCAA. They lost to Landmark in the conference semifinal game this season, but their 22-4 record good enough for that at-large selection. SUNY Brockport battles the Blue Jays first. Brockport lost in the conference title game, but only 4 losses this season. Congratulations on an already impressive season, Golden Eagles. Western New England comes in as another at-large selection. Shayna Cooney scored her 1,000th career point this season. It's the 4th time WNE is heading to the NCAA tournament. Tufts, you're going dancing. A heartbreaking loss in double overtime in the conference tournament quarterfinals to Trinity is not stopping you from the madness of March. The Jumbos have played in the national title game twice, but never hoisted that trophy. They'll try to get that done this season. Our host school in this pod, Gettysburg. The Bullets rallied from a 13-point deficit to force overtime in the Centennial Conference title game, then held Johns Hopkins to just 3 points in that extra frame to win, just 3. Gettysburg's the first school to win 4 straight Centennial Conference titles. Stevens rounds out this round of 8. The Ducks making it to their 7th NCAA tournament after winning its 5th conference championship. Head coach Meg Howie won her 200th game in January. Pat, who's your favorite in this region?
Yeah, great question. I think this is a regional that's super wide open. These 8 teams, there's not one team that's going to jump right out and really be the team that everybody's going to rally around, so to speak. But Randolph-Macon, they've won 26 games in a row. They have a history of having performed well in the NCAA tournament back in previous years and years ago, which would be very interesting to see that. SUNY Brockport, I just want to shout out Brockport and Geneseo both making the field. Moving from the SUNYAC to the Empire VIII, they changed leagues this year, and those 2 teams dominated that league. They were 1-2, and then they were 1-2 playing in the title game as well. And Tufts at 15-10. This is the power of the NESCAC, the New England Small College Athletic Conference, and the power of the NPI in those calculations. Tufts is the 17th at-large team out of 21, but that's a 15-10 overall record. But think about the teams that they played. And then Gettysburg has been at this position before, and we'll see, how they do when they host this upcoming weekend.
Thanks, Pat. We got 16 teams left in this bracket, and we're going to start with Whitman. The 26-1 Blues narrowly escaped George Fox for the Northwest Conference Championship this weekend. They say defense wins championships, so that was true in this game. The Blues held George Fox to 16 points total in the second half. They will face Wisconsin Superior in that first round. This is their fourth postseason title, the first one since the 2017-18 season. Congratulations to the Yellow Jackets. Speaking of Wisconsin, how about we let another in from the Dairy State? Wisconsin Stout, the 19-7 Blue Devils might have lost in the WEAC semifinal, but the season continues for the Blue Devils. Love seeing those highlights, and congratulations on going dancing. Get ready, Ripon. The Red Hawks enter the NCAA tournament on a 14-game winning streak. The reigning Midwest Conference Player of the Year, Ella Tenpass, has broken the school's single-season rebounding record this season. Congratulations coming to Colorado College. The 23-3 Tigers earn an at-large selection. Senior Zoe Tomlinson named the All-Southern Collegiate Athletic Conference's Player of the Year for the second straight year, and she tacks on Defensive Player of the Year this season. Congrats to Colorado College. Wisconsin lacrosse, you are also going dancing. The Eagles lost in the WEAC semifinals, but another great season gives them a ticket to the madness. Lauren Milne leads the way on offense, averaging over 15 points a game. The Eagles, the fourth team from Wisconsin to earn an at-large bid. Wisconsin Whitewater, you're also in, and you get to host. Warhawks won the WEAC tournament title for the fourth time Saturday and will make their 23rd NCAA tournament appearance. It's their 9th straight. The Warhawks battle Principia in the first round. The Panthers got the first four seed to win the SLIAC tournament in history. Genesis Santiago hit the game-winning shot with seconds left to beat Webster and make that history. Pat, we got so many Wisconsin teams in this bracket. Will it be a Wisconsin team that moves on out of this region?
Well, I mean, the math suggests at least there's a 50% chance, right? So we got that going for us. The WIAC, that's another conference where we had so many at-large teams qualify. It's hard to split them out. We have two of them in the same pod there at the bottom. And Wisconsin Superior is not in the WIAC anymore. They're the champs of the UMAC. But, that set of teams at Stout, Johnson Fieldhouse should be rocking in Menominee, Wisconsin. Look forward to that. And then, of course, same thing down in Whitewater. Whitewater driven by the Carollos, whether you think it's Carrie Carollo, the head coach first, or her daughter, Casey Carollo, who's, the one of the key people on the floor. But you mentioned Zoe Tomlinson, and we do not want to count out Colorado College. Tomlinson is just she's a really tough matchup for a lot of people in Division III women's basketball. She's just, when you say averaging a double-double, that doesn't really describe it. She could throw out 36 points and 24 boards in a game and practically not break a sweat. So I look forward to seeing some of the games in this group.
Man, sounds like that's going to be must-see TV on that game. All right, we got 8 last ones to go, and it starts off with Johns Hopkins. The 22-4 Blue Jays making their 4th straight NCAA tournament, their 15th overall. They earn an at-large bid after losing to Gettysburg in overtime during the conference championship, but look at that little asterisk. That means you Blue Jays are hosting this pod. Johns Hopkins will play Connecticut's St. Joseph in the first round, the first time since the 1997-98 season that St. Joseph's won the Great Northeast Athletic Conference Championship, an already historic year as they try to make even more history in the tournament. Here comes Carnegie Mellon. This is the Tartans' first NCAA tournament in 10 years. Only the fourth overall. Senior Catherine Orr's already in the 1,500 point club. She averages 18.5 points a game. Orr's crew will battle Bridgewater State first. They defeated defending conference champs Framingham State in front of a near capacity crowd for this year's automatic bid. It's their 12th tournament appearance. 4 teams to go. Next up, Southern Virginia. The team currently on a program record 24-game win streak. Head coach Lynette Schroeder already celebrating after being named USA South Coach of the Year. The Knights take on Bates, another at-large bid celebration. The Bobcats finished the season with a 16-9 record. They hope to tack on some more wins in March. The final host for this year's tournament, 26-1 Scranton. The Lady Royals have won 10 straight landmark conference titles. They're the stingiest defense in the entire Division III world. They allow just 45.5 points a game. I already said it. Defense wins championships. Will that be true for Scranton? We'll find out. Last, but certainly not least, Mount St. Mary out of New York. This team loves sharing the ball. They're 4th in the nation in assists per game with close to 19. Congratulations to the Knights. That's all our 64 teams. Pat, what in these last 8 stands out to you?
First of all, you've got Bates. That's that final NESCAC team. So many NESCAC teams in this field. And again, we're sending one to Northeastern Pennsylvania. That's a great spot. You have to scroll all the way to the end before you see Scranton on this list. But you said all the good things about Scranton. So I'll just point out that last year they had a really good run in the NCAA tournament. They just ran into the buzzsaw that is called NYU in the round of 8 here, at least if they were able to advance. And, you know, defense does exactly what you say it does. There would be a potential Scranton NYU matchup, but it would not be until the national semifinals. Carnegie Mellon representing the UAA here at this level. Bridgewater State, good to see them in the field. St. Joe's for the first time. Johns Hopkins, heartbreaker in the Centennial Conference in overtime, this weekend. And they've struggled sometimes, I think, in the conference championship game, but got an opportunity to not only play on in the NCAA tournament, but they get to host these games at home.
We love it. So many teams dancing. I can hear the cheers happening throughout the country on the celebrations for today. Once again, thank you, Pat, for all your hard work this season. Good luck covering the craziness in the last 3 weeks. Everyone, make sure you stick tuned into d3hoops.com for all of Pat's analysis. As we move on, don't forget, this is where everyone is trying to be. The semifinals and finals will be conducted in the Kreger Center in Salem, Virginia, on the campus of Roanoke College. Special thanks to Old Dominion Athletic Conference for hosting this year. Thanks for watching the NCAA Selection Show. Congratulations to all of you teams. Good luck in the Madness of March.
I teach the art of fanology, a job I take seriously. As to the question of nature versus nurture, is a fan born or is a fan made? I know this. Our game can make a fan out of anyone. And at Fandom U, we take it to a whole new level. The NCAA Championships. Attendance is encouraged, passion is mandatory. Buy your seats today at ncaa.com/tickets. Class dismissed.